Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins in the near future where the east coast of America has formed into a giant megacity called the Sprawl. The world's controlled by big corporations who are opposed by an underground resistance of hackers and data pirates calling themselves the Low-Techs. The cyberpunks use brain implants to steal valuable information, so the company Pharmacom has hired the Yakuza to protect their data. They trap important files with deadly viruses that melt the brains of intruders who gain access with some questionable special effects. Most sensitive information is kept in the brain of data smugglers who get paid for their security in what's come to be known as the InfoWars. After traveling through a 90s interpretation of what the internet looks like, we exit through the eye of one of these mnemonic carriers named Johnny. He wakes up with an attractive woman getting dressed and turns on the TV to see a story about a disease called nerve attenuation syndrome. Commonly called the Black Shakes, it's infected a lot of the population, and since there's no cure, it results in fatality if you don't receive continual treatments. The woman asks Johnny a personal question, but he can't answer it as he dumped all of his memories to make room in his head for the data that he smuggles. She walks out of the movie while John speaks to a man named Ralfi who's promised to remove the implant and return his memories so that John can have a life. Needing to perform one more courier run to afford the operation, John travels to central Beijing amidst a riot looking to meet his next client. In a movie released 4 years before The Matrix, John jacks into a memory doubler to increase his storage capacity to 160 gigs. The clients he meets are two nervous little Asian dudes who admittedly don't do this often, but Johnny came highly recommended as someone with a big empty brain. They require him to transport 320 gigs of data, which is twice of what Johnny can carry without dying from synaptic seepage. Confident that he'll offload it before then, John pretends he has more upstairs than he actually does and puts on equipment required for the transfer. A mouthguard goes in and he experiences a painful rush of data that gets uploaded to his brain while the original copies quickly burned by the clients. When mobile again, Johnny excuses himself to go throw up while a device prints out a strip of photos that'll be used as the code to re-download the data. Downstairs in their leatheriest of jackets, a gang of Yakuza arrives with their captain Shinji having tracked down the data thieves. They enter the room and begin popping heads while Johnny's in the bathroom, but when Baldy enters, our courier knocks him unconscious. He attempts to retrieve the strip of photos when the leader uses a monofilament whip that extends from a thimble to slice half of it off. Johnny manages to escape capture, but the last surviving data smuggler tries to burn the other half of the password and gets his hand sliced off. Shinji delivers it to his employer Takahashi, who treats the assassin like crap and orders him to return to the streets and capture the courier. A shiny woman that comes out of the TV has told him that it can give him a new purpose in life, but he hasn't been able to find her identity yet. On his way to deliver the info in his head to an end user in New Jersey, John passes through an airport where scanners detect his implants listed as an approved dyslexia device by the government. He calls Ralfi from his cab on his way to voice his concern about a betrayal and demands to have the data removed quickly. Ralph claims they don't even need the extraction code and are able to remove the circuitry from his head manually, but that sounds pretty sus. Flanked either side by his henchwoman, Ralfi sits at his busy nightclub getting tonguey with Pretty while being watched by Jane. Having just had her cybernetics enhanced by a flesh mechanic named Spider, she approaches the boss to show off her new implants and insults Yomamma. Much faster than his current goons, Jane still fails the audition by simply holding her hand out steady as she's infected with the Black Shakes. Promising to return to F Ralfi up just for not hiring her, she departs as we cut to Johnny being dropped off by the cab in the nicer part of town. His memory implant is detected by the low-tech J-Bone from a building above, but he leaves the visitor alone to locate his contact in peace. It's all just a setup by the Yakuza as Baldy waits to execute John, but he planted a bomb on the entryway and uses it to cover his escape. Thinking that it's Johnny, the assassin murders J-Bone's clumsy young sidekick, and when he's about to shoot the witness, John saves him. The hit must have killed him because we never see Baldy again, and when the traitor points his gun at the pair, J-Bone fires a blade from his wrist into the big guy's chest. As help for saving him, the rebel reveals the location of the low-tech headquarters as being under the remains of an old bridge before suddenly disappearing. Johnny then visits Ralfi to demand answers for setting him up, but Yomamma manhandles him unconscious and John wakes up strapped to a table. He's been sold out to Shinji, who prepares to remove Johnny's head as there's less chance of any corrupted files if they just freeze it. Jane noticed them carrying Johnny into the back room, and being the nosy Nelly that she is, she sneaks into the ceiling above them to listen in. To spite Ralfi, she drops down and fights off the gang to spoil their fun while also making a deal with Johnny to get paid for cutting him loose. John rounds up the boys with a gun, but Jane must have personal beef with Pretty because she almost has to be dragged away from kicking her teeth in. The two escape and the blonde immediately springs back up to join Shinji in chasing them. After he first slices poor Ralfi into pieces, as this is all kind of his fault since he didn't just kill Jane when she threatened him earlier. She flees with Johnny into a cardboard city where J-Bone and the Resistance protect the pair and have a standoff with the Yakuza. They allow the pair to get away through a deserted subway tunnel where Jane lets it be known that she isn't allowing Johnny out of her sight until he pays her. Suddenly a painful headache bombards John with images of his dumped childhood memories and he stresses the need to find a computer. They break into an electronics store to find a set of power gloves and VR headset that allows him to access the hotel's computer in Beijing. While searching for the client's name, a technician notices the hack and informs Takahashi of John's location, but he's unable to find any useful info anyway. He decides to contact another data thief in the area and threatens to fry his computer if the floating head doesn't help him. He's unable to remove it but reveals that John has a hard drive full of Pharmacom's most valuable secrets in his head, as those Asian dudes were corporate defectors. Just then the Yakuza arrive, so Jane saves them with her grenade keychain and they escape again, leaving Shinji in hot water with his boss. From the Pharmacom skyscraper, Takahashi calls a pseudo-cleric named Street Preacher and offers him a contract to collect Johnny's head with the promise that he's a sinner. A lady then briefs Takahashi that his mysterious woman was a founder of the company who imprinted herself into the computer when she died to become a ghost in the machine. Elsewhere at a phone booth in the city, Johnny hacks into the system and offers the data to a Pharmacom security officer, hoping that he'll negotiate. They plan to meet up, but Jane suffers a seizure from the black shake, so she tells Johnny that Spider can save her and remove the seeping data in his brain before it kills him. She directs him to the hacker's hideout in a secluded area where he lets them inside and hooks Jane up to some wires to examine her. When asked what causes the disease, he rants about it being a byproduct of all the electronics poisoning the airwaves. Johnny explains his situation and asks for help with extracting the information, but outside, J-Bone and his cronies watch as the Street Preacher arrives. He interrogates the local bartender for Jane's location by freezing his prosthetic hand in liquid nitrogen and shattering it with a pipe. Spider stabilizes Jane's spasms and scans Johnny's brain, but still isn't confident that he can remove the data without the download codes. He says they'd have a better chance at a hospital, so John convinces Spider to drive him to the nearby one in hopes of using their equipment. The Street Preacher plants in the middle of the road, but they almost kill him by running him over, as I don't know what the durable guy was thinking. They reach a crowded hospital where patients suffer from the black shakes, and it's revealed that the only treatment costs around $2,000 a hit. It's produced by Pharmacom, so Spider hooks Johnny up to another device and discovers that the data inside his head's from their test report proving they invented a cure. The data smugglers stole the formula and were trying to get it to the underground, which is why the corporation will stop at nothing to get it back. It can save millions of people's lives, but Big Pharma would rather sell the treatments at $2,000 a pop instead of outright curing anything. Now Johnny refuses the removal when learning that it requires a cranial drill and forceps, when suddenly the Street Preacher enters claiming to be everybody's savior. Quick thinking, Jane impales him with a large nail while Spider distracts him, allowing her to escape with Johnny at the sacrifice of himself. The Preacher then tortures his hostage for Johnny and Jane's location and learns that they've taken the data to the Resistance at the bridge. It wasn't needed anyway, as the Yakuza learn about the location themselves when John organizes to meet his Pharmacom connection, but it's revealed to be Takahashi using an avatar the whole time. As he hangs up on John, the ghost in the machine reappears to warn Takahashi that he's running out of time, but she's silenced as he's had enough of her constant nagging. He loads up and goes hunting for the data, which Johnny and Jane deliver to the bridge, and asks the two guards to let them inside. For all the talk of the Resistance being dangerous, it's probably because they're just so clumsy, as the two almost blow their guests up with a car bomb trap. Johnny begins having a tantrum about his desire for normalcy, and when his complaints are finished, J-Bone descends and doesn't even apologize. He brings them by elevator into the undercarriage of the bridge as John begins having flashbacks and requires being carried. Once he's recovered, Jane randomly kisses Johnny after he was just talking crap about all her people to her face before J-Bone interrupts. He shows them into the low-tech command center to meet the real leader and brains of the Resistance, which is the computer hacker Dolphin named Jones. Johnny's hesitant to link with a fish, but gets reminded that it's a mammal and eventually agrees to connect with it using a massive headpiece. Jones dives in his attempt to locate a new copy of the destroyed password as Shinji arrives at the head of a small security force. They use grappling hooks to ascend to the bridge, while Takahashi arrives soon after by helicopter and makes his way inside through the top. As Shinji silently makes his way through, one of his men outside gets inadvertently crushed by one of the traps, causing a second to go ballistic. She begins shooting rockets at the headquarters, alerting the Resistance of their presence and getting herself shot in the mouth by J-Bone. The Dolphin's still trying to find the encryption key inside Johnny's brain, but the codebreaker's interrupted by all of the fighting. Left alone with Jane to search for the data himself, the pair are confronted by Takahashi, but he doesn't want to shoot John. He intends to slice off his head to recover the data instead, but Anna appears on the monitors and explains the situation with the cure. Takahashi himself didn't even know about it, and his own daughter's infected with the black shake, so he kills the feed in anger and returns to John. He now wants it, but Shinji shoots him in the back and intends to get his own revenge on John whether the cure is destroyed or not. Jane fights back and handles her attacker pretty easily while Johnny tries to run away from Shinji but ducks his monofilament, causing them both to fall from the bridge. Hanging from a container by their fingertips, John manages to reach Shinji's wire and wraps it around his head, sending him into the river in 2 pieces. When he climbs back up, John is met by a dying Takahashi who gives him the other half of the download code because screw Shinji. He dies while John returns to Jane and the dolphin, but she's greeted by the street preacher with the corniest line in the movie.
Jesus time.
He beats her up and is about to stick a nail through her hands, as I guess that's what Jesus time means, but John saves her and the two fight. Or rather, John gets flogged around as well until Jane tells Jones to send out a signal while she directs the satellite dish towards the preacher. His cyber implants begin to burn him alive, and as soon as he's a charred up husk, the whole place calms down after another successful defense. Johnny gives the rest of the code to J-Bone and links with Fishboy again, where he's shown as a poorly rendered polygon strolling through the circuits. He uses a duplicate to avoid being sliced up by the security program and downloads the cure, represented by him ripping an image of Anna away. J-Bone broadcasts it all across the world and an exhausted Johnny collapses out of the helmet, but he recovers quickly when Jane approaches. Along with a land-based resistance leader, they look out over the city as the Pharmacom skyscraper burns down in the distance. Appearing to still be alive at first, the street preacher's corpse is then tossed into the river for a cherry of disrespect on top. And the movie ends.